There's only a few things I could say. One of which is slap the like button. Slap the like button. You said First Kings? Is that what you said? That's fine. We can go to First Kings. What chapter? 11? Why 11? I guess we'll find out, huh? I guess we'll find out. We'll go to First Kings, chapter 11, maybe. We'll see. We'll see if we can go there. I wonder why you wanted to go to chapter 11. I wonder. But we'll see. Good morning. Good morning. We'll just stick with that. It's okay. Alrighty. Well, good morning. Who wanted First Kings? I made it up. Made up the chapter 11 part 2. It's literally just what popped into my brain. You know, the thing about the people that go to the hotel and they pick up the Gideon's Bible and they say, and they jumped off a cliff, go and do likewise, you know, that sort of thing. I like to do random. I like to read random things from the Bible sometimes. It's just all good. Yes, you need context. But if you don't know that, you probably don't watch my channel if you don't know what context is. How about that? Not that everybody that watches my channel is a genius, just most of you happen to be really smart people. So, anyway, my glasses are super dirty. Let me make this huge because this is not working for me. Hello? Hello? Here. I can't see anything. There we go. I can read it without my glasses now. That's what's up. Which is what I'm going to do in order to not waste time because my work does start in like a little more than 10 minutes. But yeah, good morning, everybody. Who am I talking to? Talking to you. Alright, so. Guten Morgen. Let us begin. It's a really messed up accent there. It's really messed up. First Kings, chapter 11. But King Solomon, I have no idea what was going on. Y'all should go back and read First Kings 1 through 10. And then you'll know what's going on. But we're just going to wing it this morning. We're just going to wing it. Okay? It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. But King Solomon defiantly loved many foreign women. Ooh, that's not good, guys. It's not good. You don't need to know too much context to know that that's just not good. All right, let's continue. The daughter of Pharaoh. Ooh. Scandalous. I mean, he was probably excited. Because, you know, Solomon was kind of like the richest man that ever has lived for all time, for all humanity. So even Pharaoh would have been like, yeah, I mean, whatever, daughter. Just, as long as he likes you, I don't know, whatever. It's fine. Just make sure he likes you, because that guy has some money. He can make some stuff happen. So, make sure he likes you. I'm just assuming the Pharaoh was not a highly scrupulous man. Let's read the Bible. My talking is just ridiculous sometimes. Women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Sidonians, and Hittites. They were of the very nations of whom the Lord said to the Israelites, "You shall not mingle with them." Tradition. Yes, I just recently finished, for the first time ever, watching Fiddler on the Roof. I have some things to say about that movie. However, in general, I liked it. I did like it. Very interesting. I had some comments that it had some messages of moral relativism, but in general, it was a decent movie, especially in comparison to so many other pieces of garbage out there. Tradition. Alright, let's go. I think I can see. Let's do this. Neither shall they mingle with you, for surely they will turn away your hearts after their gods. Yet Solomon clung to these in love. He had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines. So it was more than 1,000. Those are 3 categories. Just princesses is just the smallest of the categories, I assume. And his wives turned away his heart from God. For when Solomon was old, his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not perfect, complete and whole with the Lord his God, as was the heart of David, his father. For Solomon went after Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Sidonians, and after Milcom, the abominable idol of the Ammonites. Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord, and went not fully after the Lord as David his father did. Then Solomon built a high place for Chemosh, the abominable idol of Moab, on the hill opposite Jerusalem, and for Molech, the abominable idol of the Ammonites. And he did so for all of his foreign wives, who burned incense and sacrificed to their gods. And the Lord was angry with Solomon, because his heart was turned from the Lord, the God of Israel, who had appeared to him twice, and had commanded him concerning this thing, that he should not go after other gods, but he did not do what the Lord commanded. Therefore the Lord said to Solomon, because you are doing this, and have not kept my covenant and my statutes, which I have commanded you, I will surely rend the kingdom from you, and will give it to your servant. However, in your days I will not do it for David, your father's sake, but I will rend it out of the hand of your son. However, I will not tear away all the kingdom, but will give one tribe to your son for David, my servant's sake, and for the sake of Jerusalem, which I have chosen. The Lord stirred up an adversary against Solomon, Hadad the Edomite. He was of royal descent in Edom. For when David was in Edom, and Joab, the commander of Israel's army, went up to bury the slain, he slew every male in Edom. For Joab and all Israel remained there for 6 months, until he had cut off every male in Edom. But Hadad fled, he and certain Edomites of his father's servants, to Egypt. Hadad being yet a little child, they set out from Midian and came to Paran, and took men with them out of Paran and came to Egypt, to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, who gave young Hadad a house and land and ordered provisions for him. Hadad found great favor with Pharaoh, so that he gave him in marriage the sister of his own wife, Tapenes. I'm wondering what that would have been in Phoenician. Anyway, the queen, I could look it up obviously, but the sister of Tapenes bore Hadad Genubath, his son, whom Tapenes weaned in Pharaoh's house. And Genubath was in Pharaoh's household among the sons of Pharaoh. But when Hadad heard in Egypt that David slept with his fathers, and that Joab, the commander of Israel's army, was dead, Hadad said to Pharaoh, "Let me depart, that I may go to my own country." Then Pharaoh said to him, "But what have you lacked with me, that now you want to go to your own country?" He replied, "Nothing. However, let me go anyhow." God raised up for Hadad another adversary, Rezon, son of Eliada, who had fled from his master Hadadezer, king of Zobah. Rezon gathered men about him and became leader of the marauding band after the slaughter by David. They went to Damascus and dwelt and made Rezon king in Damascus. And Rezon was an adversary to Israel all the days of Solomon. Besides the mischief that Hadad did, Rezon had abhorred Israel and reigned over Syria. Jeroboam, son of Nebat, an Ephrathite of Zereda, Solomon's servant, whose mother's name was Zeruiah, a widow woman, rebelled against the king. For this reason, Solomon built the Millo and repaired the breaches of the city of David his father. The man Jeroboam was a mighty man of courage. Solomon, seeing that the young man was industrious, put him in charge over all the forced labor of the house of Joseph. At that time, when Jeroboam went out of Jerusalem, the prophet Ahijah, the Shilonite, met him on the way. Ahijah had clad himself with a new garment, and they were alone in the field. Excuse me. Alone in the field, Ahijah caught the new garment he wore and tore it into 12 pieces. He said to Jeroboam, "Take 10 pieces, for thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, Behold, I will tear the kingdom from the hand of Solomon, and will give you 10 tribes. But he shall have 1 tribe for my servant David's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, and the city which I have chosen out of all the tribes of Israel. Because they have forsaken me, and they have worshipped Ashtaroth, the goddess of the Sidonians, Chemosh, the god of the Moabites, and Milcom, the god of the Ammonites, and have not walked in my ways, to do what is right in my sight, keeping my statutes and my ordinances, as did David, his father." There is a point for me reading this. Some of you are happy reading Old Testament, and some of you are like, I'm just losing sight of what's going on. It's okay. There is a point to reading the Old Testament. Hopefully you know that. "However, I will not take the whole kingdom out of his hand, but I will make him ruler all the days of his life for David my servant's sake, whom I chose because he kept my commandments and my statutes. But I will take the kingdom out of his son's hand and give it to you, 10 tribes. Yet to his son I will give 1 tribe, that David my servant may always have a light before me in Jerusalem, the city where I have chosen to put my name. And I will take you, and you shall reign according to all that your soul desires, and you shall be king over Israel." It's raining again. How much rain can possibly shoot from the sky? Alright, "And if you will hearken to all I command you, and will walk in my ways, and do right in my sight, keeping my statutes and my commandments, as David my servant did, I will be with you and build you as a sure house, as I built for David. And I will give Israel to you. And I will for this afflict the descendants of David, but not forever." Solomon sought therefore to kill Jeroboam, but Jeroboam arose and fled into Egypt, to Shishak, king of Egypt, and was in Egypt until Solomon died. The rest of the acts of Solomon and all that he did, and his wisdom, which he got from God, guys, the most wisdom that any man's ever had, and yet, are they not written in the book of the acts of Solomon? The acts of Solomon, yes? Y'all read that one, right? The acts of Solomon. The time Solomon reigned in Jerusalem over all Israel was 40 years, and Solomon slept with his fathers, and was that had different meaning. It's not talking about the 21st, 20th century meaning. And was buried in the city of David his father. Slept mean to die, guys. Die. Good night. Forever. Rehoboam his son reigned in his stead. Alright, listen. Listen. Here's the thing. First and foremost, does God like it if you keep his commands? Okay. Well, are there consequences for not keeping his commandments? What do you think? Solomon was a dude that basically got a lottery ticket from God. Yeah, that's an extremely oversimplified way of putting it. I get it. But he had the opportunity to ask from God for pretty much anything. Pretty much anything. And he asked for wisdom. And God granted him all the wisdom that anybody could ever desire. More wisdom than anybody's ever had. So two things. That 1 Kings chapter 11, and read the whole thing. But two things from this chapter that should really stick out to you. First and foremost, the nature of a relationship is that you listen to the person you're in a relationship with and you do what they like. However, the nature of the relationship of us and God is to understand that God is perfect and that his desires and what he likes from you is also perfect. So if God wants you to do something specific because that's part of his law, you need to recognize that his law is perfect. So you should do it. So for instance, some of us have spouses and we love to do what they like most of the time. But it's not always perfect. It just isn't. This was a lesson that I'm not really good at learning yet, but I'm working on it. Sometimes you have to say no. But you don't say no to God because his will and his desires and what he likes is perfect. So if it's not obvious, I'm just trying to say it out loud, Just think about it. It's pretty obvious if you read the Bible. All right, so here's the point number 2. The second most important. Well, actually, it's all important, equally important. Here's another one, guys. And it's past time. I've got to go. And I've talked about this phrase before. The phrase of knowledge is power. In fact, I unfortunately heard this at church not too long ago. And I didn't actually throw up in my mouth, but I threw up in my psychological proverbial mouth. Anyway, you get what I'm saying. I hate the phrase in general, but if knowledge was power, I guess it depends on what kind of power you're looking for. Right? Because you could argue, oh, well, he had wisdom, which is different than knowledge. I get it. But my point is, it's close enough to make the argument that, sure, you get all the power you could ever dream of. all the power. Not the right kind of power. You want to know how I would rephrase that? Of course you want to know. You wouldn't still be here if you didn't want to know. Faith. Faith is power. But all power comes from God. All power that means anything, at least. So, anyway. Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely show the Masonic uh, book, if you want to call it a Bible. Do a couple of verse comparisons. Um, I'm interested in knowing whether or not it has like commentary that would purposely lead somebody away from understanding the scriptures. Um, but anyway, guys, I've got to get to work. Sometimes you just need to pick a random chapter of the Bible and just read it. And then, hopefully, don't be lazy. Go, I don't know what's going on here. And read. Read before, read after. Keep going as far back. It's okay. It's like reading the book backwards. You can do that. You jump to the middle of the book and then you go, okay, well, I thought this might work. Go backwards. Read backwards until you understand what's going on. It's another method. Some of us stubborn folks, we need alternative methods to working through what's necessary. There's a reason why everything leads back to the Egyptians, guys. Let me tell you. Remember, when the Hebrews came out of Egypt and they were eating manna and all that good stuff, they were complaining. What did they look back to? What did they say? They ought to just go back to Egypt. I have no doubt in my mind that Egypt and the slavery in Egypt and all of that is 100% literal and did happen. But I also know that real life events have meaning. And I believe that in addition to the literal events that took place, the meaning of why a lot of things seem to go back to Egypt is because there is a desire to, what do they call it? Regression is our natural tendency. Regression. And on that note, you need to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength.